Over the last 36 years, I've talked to thousands of therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and coaches. And 6 out of 10 of them are burned out, stressed out, uncomfortable with their careers, and don't have the confidence when working with the addicted population. The question is why? Why do we have these dedicated people who can't seem to really feel fulfilled in their careers? And I know that you're burned out. I hear the stories every day, and there was a time when I was burned out as well. But I'm going to show you in this video exactly how to get past that, why it's happening to you, and also how to teach your students, your clients, your patients, whatever you call them. You're going to teach them how to get past the problem and, more importantly, move on with their lives. Not in meetings, not in rehabs, not stuck in mat regimens for the rest of their life, but to be free. And when you teach people that, you'll be amazed at how fulfilled you feel. And I'm going to show you that you can work less and get better results. All of that is going to be covered in this video. So the question is, why should you believe me? Who am I? Who is Mark Sheeran? So I think, first of all, you need to know that there was a time when I was fried. I was burned out, both as a user in my younger years, and I'm going to give you a little history about that, and also as somebody in the addiction help field. For the first 10 years that I was a researcher, it was an incredibly hard time in my life. I didn't have the solution. I didn't have the freedom model. I, like you, had the wrong information, and so I was struggling in my career. But let's talk about my history first. So I grew up in treatment. I grew up around it. I'm the youngest of 12 kids. 8 of my siblings went to rehab. My mother was an ardent member of AA and was a counselor herself. And so I grew up around it, and then at the age of 12 to 18, I had a massive drug and alcohol problem, to the point where I went to jail, I went to rehabs, I was in therapies from the age of, even before I drank and drugged, from the age of 7 and 8, all the way till I was 19. And so it was a really rough go, and I got to a point where I had to change my life, where I was going to die. And at the time, I was beginning to get the strikings of pancreatitis from the drinking, and I was drinking every day, and life was quite miserable. But that experience of growing up in treatment, having the experience of being a heavy user of drugs and alcohol, and being lost, incredibly lost, and then being cast into the treatment system, being mandated to treatment, that whole era of my life was difficult. But there was a point where I stopped and my life began to improve, and then I was mandated into treatment. But that window between where I quit on my own power, without meetings, without any recovery, where I just said, I'm going to do this, my life took off. Then I was mandated to treatment 6 months later. Courts caught up with me, and they put me in treatment for 18 months. At the end of that 18 months, I decided that I was broken. I identified as an alcoholic and an addict. The well-meaning counselors sort of corralled me into this idea that I was a broken person. Now, I never thought that prior. It was only in treatment that I learned that I was this broken person. And I became hopeless. I became hopeless. I became miserable. I became depressed. I became anxiety-ridden, and I decided to take my life. And it was in that moment, just before I actually pulled the trigger, that I realized that something was drastically wrong. There had to be a better way. And that clear thought was enough for me to become a researcher. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was just in a desperate state of mind, and I began researching why treatment was such an abysmal experience. Now, some of you are in that system. Many of you are. And you may be thinking, yeah, well, you had to hit a bottom. You had to do all these things. No, I didn't. I didn't have to do all of that. And I'm going to give you information that shows that people don't have to go down those paths. They don't have to be in meetings and rehabs and in endless recovery and Matt regimens for life. They don't have to be in that state of mind. So I'm going to give you an alternative solution that I developed with my team, with Michelle. She's right over there behind the computer. I'm going to show you what we built and created over the last 36 years. So the first 10 years of my research career, where I realized that something was drastically wrong with the system, was a hard-fought, very difficult, brutal undertaking. I ran the longest observational study in the addiction help research world. I spent nearly a dozen years, 10 to 11 years, living with my guests at my first retreat and reverse engineering the entire AA and treatment and recovery paradigm. Now, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't intend to do that. I only knew AA and recovery. I only knew the model that taught the disease of alcoholism and drug addiction and the brain disease and all these different theories. That's all I knew, but I also knew a different side, and that was I quit on my own. And I was a die-hard, everyday drinker, drug taker with withdrawal. And yet I stopped on my own before treatment got its hooks into me. And I said, logically, how is it that that happened? Then I started to look around, and then I started to do the research, and I started to realize, oh my God, the vast majority of people that get over their problem, more than 91% of them on average, never go to treatment. And 80% of that 91% don't go to treatment, and yet they get over their problem. And I said, my God, there's millions of people that got over their problem like I did. So what gives here? But in the process of reverse engineering, I got burned out because I was living in two worlds. One was the recovery world that I was sort of navigating through, and the other was this idea that people can be free and have a choice, and which one was true. And over time, the recovery model slowly dwindled because the facts weren't there. And the idea that you could be free and move past this and move on with your life, the research showed that that was more possible and probable. So I started to teach that more and more. So the percentage of the positive compared to the old model started to outweigh. And I reverse engineered. I basically threw out the old model, which is the 12-step, essentially the 12-step foundational paradigm. And so when I realized that basically everything I had been taught since I was a child was wrong, was just factually incorrect, and that human beings had the capacity as individuals, as autonomous individuals, to move past their problem, my burnout in those first 10 years went away because I became really successful. I say it was me and my research team and the instructors. And at that point, we had 109 employees and 3 retreats and an office in Manhattan. And it was a very exciting time. And all of this time, we were also learning how to coach one-on-one independently from people online and in their homes. So they weren't just coming to our retreats. So now the paradigm was shifting away from a residential model and more into an online coaching model. So we were really the first telehealth addiction help model in the world. And that coaching model, the roots go all the way back to our beginning. We were always an educational model, not a therapeutic one, not a medical one. So we let the detox folks take care of detox, and we did the rest. So that process, so you need to know that was a 27-year process of going from the day I quit, going to treatment, suicide attempt, reverse engineering for 10 years, doing the longest observational study, then perfecting this thing we called the freedom model, which is all choice-based. And in the end, what happened was we had the highest independently verified success rate in the world. And what we also found is that within 3 90-minute sessions, I could take somebody who was where I was, which was hopeless, and showed them how to be free. And that was unprecedented and still is to this day. We are the best at addiction help in the world. So in 2017, I said, let's publish all the data. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a free copy of the abridged version of this. You don't have to read a 470-page research book. You know, we'll give you a sort of the cliff notes of our research. And but this took the world by storm. By the way, in this process, I haven't been burned out since, because when you're effective every day with people and you watch their eyes light up and you're not fighting with them, and you don't have to corral them into, you need this, you need to do that. In our model, there are no shoulds, there's no confrontation, there's just, here are the facts, and we're going to show you that with the facts you can move past your problem and move on with your life without meetings, rehabs, or recovery, or the need for support even. So from publishing the book in 2017, we took all that data, that 27 years of experience, and at that point we had probably about 20,000 people through this process of the freedom model. And then we started developing products around that, coaching products, workshops, master classes, all of this, our app. Michelle wrote Freedom Model for the Family, developed a program around that. And then, of course, our one-on-one coaching model. And that changed things dramatically. Yeah, there's a listing of what we do. And now, how do we get you involved? And that would be the Freedom Model Coaching Certification Program. There's going to be a lot of information. For all the links for all of these things, just go to the bottom of this video. You'll find everything you need there. Click on the links, look into everything, and it's going to make sense to you. But we want people like you, the people who are invested. If you're burned out, if you've worked so hard that you've gotten to a point of desperation in your career where you say, I can't do this anymore. There has to be a better way. If you're like me and you're there, then you need this certification program. That's what you need, because it's going to blow your mind. It's going to completely revolutionize the way you think about addiction. It's going to reconceptualize the entire concept of it. It's going to debunk nearly everything that you've been teaching. It can be a little shocking at first when you see the research, but it's liberating. And you will be liberating your students as well. So does this sound too good to be true? If you're skeptical? Well, I think the first thing is, ask yourself, is what you're doing working? I had to be honest. I had to look. And when we were consulting with rehabs and trying to implement some of this stuff, and I was looking at what people were doing, and I would enter some of these facilities, and it was like entering the world of the dead. The spirit was so low. There was so much confrontation. There was so much stress involved. And I said, I wish I could take every one of these people and put them in the Freedom Model system, because their whole lives would change. Their careers would change. Their ability to help people would change. And so my dream has always been, from day one, is to revolutionize the treatment system to a system that actually works. And we have that now. You don't have to wonder. Now, if you think it's too good to be true, I'm going to give a whole bunch of it to you for free. And so you're going to get the abridged ebook. You're going to get the family book. And you're also going to get our app, which has samplings of everything that we do, all the different products. Part of my dream was to make a model that had a system where anybody, regardless of socioeconomic status, worldwide, would have access to the entire suite of products, and also an option that they could afford. So it's affordable, it's proven effective, and now we've had 27,000 people through this successfully, and all of that is documented. But if you're still skeptical, let's say you're saying, oh, this sounds like a sales thing. Okay, challenge me. I'd like for you to call that number Michelle will answer the phone, most likely. Sometimes I answer it as well, but we do answer that line personally. Set up a 20-minute coaching session, one-on-one, you and me, and come up with your most difficult scenario, the one that's the hardest, that you've been struggling with. And it can be anything research-based. It can be a case study. What would I do? And challenge me with it. Now, try to remember, you're coming in totally cold, and I'm going to come up with a solution that's going to make so much logical sense. And I'm going to apply the freedom model directly to that and show you that this model works. And you will then be just as competent as I am, because I created with Michelle and Stephen this certification program. It's a 10-week course, and you'll be able to do it on your schedule, and you'll be able to answer the same way I did with you. If you have any questions, I'll get rid of any question in your mind. You will be like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, and this makes sense. This was logical. And we can have a great conversation. So bring me your most difficult case, and I will provide you a detailed guidance to solve it. We really want all the people that are burned out or going into the burnout phase to become certified in our model. You'll never be burned out again. If you're good at what you do, if you have some interpersonal social skills that are solid, and you have the ability to learn, and you have a little bit of drive to learn, we'll teach you, and you'll change lives, and you'll never be burned out again, and you will love your job. I've been doing this now for 36 years, every day. Michelle too, 36 years, every day, because we're great at what we do, but ultimately, because with non-confrontational coaching and the right information and the right research that are based in fact and logic, you can change lives. And the irony is, you won't change the life. They will. They will choose voluntarily with the information you give them. So you don't even have a dog in the fight. You don't even have to try. All you have to do is be there with the information and distribute it to the problem with what we call the Socratic method. A lot of asking of questions and nothing prescriptive. And you will love your job. All right, so call the number, get signed up today. Also, there's a link if you just want to get started on our, let me look what it says here. So each session has a limit of 25 people. I don't even know if the fall session has any left, but you can check. There'll be a fall session, winter session, and it's quarterly. And let's get started. Sign up today. Get started. There is limited availability. All right. A lot of it is going to be one-on-one. Michelle and I will be teaching you one-on-one, but there's also a certain amount of bandwidth we have to be able to train properly, because we want to do it the right way with you. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great day, and sign up, and your life will change. You'll never be burned out again. All right. Take care.